All right, so we should be ready to begin. Thank you so much, everyone, for being patient with us while we get the technology up and running to have a successful meeting. I'd like to call the October 12th meeting of ANC 5D to order, and we'll begin with a roll call this evening. 5D01.
Present.
5D02.
Present.
5D03. Commissioner Moore is unable to attend right now due to a prior engagement. 5D04.
Present.
5D05 is myself. 5D06.
Present.
And 5D07.
Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Just a quick housekeeping item. Bosco, if you could please restore Emma Taylor as our ASL interpreter as a panelist so that those who need ASL interpretation can see her. And we'll just wait to do that. We'll just wait until we get her back before we continue.
Thank you, I appreciate the help.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, adoption of the agenda is next up. We do have a few additions to the agenda for tonight's meeting. One, we have a consent calendar item on speed humps for 11th Place Northeast, and that comes from Commissioner Salvador Sauceda-Guzman. We also have an addition of a letter for the Office of ANC Leadership Transition, and we'll discuss that in more detail once we reach voting actions. And we have an addition to our FY 2022 budget for office insurance and equipment. We need to make some additional purchases to improve security, and that'll be a voting action as well, and we'll discuss that further. Any objections from any of the commissioners to adding these items to the agenda? Okay, so I move that we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting as amended. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. And then adoption of the minutes. We do have the minutes linked to our agenda tonight. Because Commissioner Elmore is our secretary and she is unavailable to attend tonight's meeting, I'll go ahead and move that we approve the minutes as previously submitted in our agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you so much. And then we'll move forward with the treasurer's report from Commissioner Cobb.
Okay, we have a few items tonight. First is the September 2021 monthly report. We did not have any expenditures, but we did receive an allotment of $4,827.26, which brings the closing balance for September and for fiscal year 2021 to $76,887.95. Now for the quarterly financial report for the third quarter of FY21, we started with a balance of $106,272.39. We had expenditures of $34,211.70, almost all of that being grant money. And so we ended with a balance in the third quarter at $72,060.69. And last is the fourth quarter FY21 report. We started with $72,060.69. We received the disbursement of $4,800 that I just mentioned. And we had no expenditures. So that brings our year-end balance to $76,887.95.
Okay, thank you so much. Any discussion from the commission on any of those items? Okay, so I move to accept all of the reports as written in advance. on our agenda, and that includes the Q3 report, the Q4 report, as well as the treasurer's monthly report. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you so much. Next up, we'll have the public safety report. And I believe we have a new face joining us tonight from MPD to give that report.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi. I'm Lieutenant Jacque. I'm the new Sector 3 Lieutenant. I just got back to, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut the radio down a little bit. I'm the watch commander, so it's a lot going on, but I just got back to 5D as a lieutenant. I was here as a patrol sergeant, but this particular area was not my area. I was Sector 1 at that time, but I also live in the 5th District. So I work here and I'm a part of the community as well. This is my first actual week. Really, today is my first day as like the watch commander. And I didn't know about this meeting until about maybe 20 minutes ago, but Captain Merrill had already made sure that Sergeant Creveling was prepared to give you guys the stats. And I can jump in if you guys have any questions that maybe he can't answer, but feel free to reach out to me and I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much for introducing yourself. And I'm always happy to hear when someone working at an agency lives in the community too. I'm always happy to hear that.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Sergeant Creveling.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all. It's really wonderful to see you all. It's been quite a while, basically between the pandemic and just some personnel changes. I think you're used to seeing Lieutenant Brescia, and he will not be here with us anymore. He has moved on to in his career to the academy, and we're very excited for him. It was a job that he was really looking forward to, and we're happy for him. He's a great guy for policy and to be in that position. So we're sad to lose him in the 5th District, but we're happy that he's moving on to something that he wanted. I wanted to go over with you guys in reference to a couple of the bigger names and bigger cases that we've had. So I've got a breakdown of some things that I've gotten some calls and some text messages about, and I'm just going to try and do this as best as I can. This past weekend was a fairly busy weekend for us. On the 12th, yesterday we had both a non-contact shooting in the 2600 block of Benning Road. Victim was shot at 3 times. He was not struck. He did not have any injuries. We're very fortunate that the gas station right there has really good cameras, and we've got some really good leads that I've talked to from our detectives. We also had a stabbing in the 700 block of 21st Street. There was also some with minor injuries. That is a known suspect, and we expect a warrant to come from that. A warrant for that suspect is forthcoming. Last week on the 29th, we had an ADW gun, assault with a dangerous weapon, in which a suspect brandished a weapon at a former lover of his. Our officers, while waiting to get her support from the community services and from OCAP, he returned back to the scene, and our officers were able to nab him and arrest him right there on site. A week prior to that, in the 1500 block of Benning, 2 individuals at the plaza right there at the intersection of H. Benning and Bladensburg. 2 individuals got into a fight. One was stabbed with minor injuries, and the suspect was arrested in that case as well. One of the other things I'm going to talk about before I get into something that's 2 things that I know are pressing issues. The last is a shooting in the 2100 block of Benning Road on September the 16th. This was a carjacking gone wrong. When the victim fought back to the suspect shot him twice in the arm. About an hour later, members of our gun recovery unit, specifically Officer Eddie Choi, who used to work here in the 5th District and is moved on to the gun recovery unit, he was able to locate and identify a suspect, place that suspect under arrest, and we had a 26-year-old male was arrested that day, charged with assault with intent to kill and carrying a pistol without a license. The last 2 things I want to go over, one was a shooting in Ivy City a couple of weeks ago, which was just outside of the smokehouse there. And I know one of the ANC commissioners came by and spoke with me. I think that was you, Miss Rhodes, and I apologize, I've not gotten back to you, but don't worry, it's every day it's been digging at me. These were two groups of juveniles that we've identified that were from Maryland, so they're not from the District of Columbia. And what was going on is that one group was hosting some sort of music video in that block right there. And when one of the rival gangs found out about that, they rode through, they brought ammunition, they brought guns. They did shoot at those individuals. And a 14-year-old male was struck. We don't believe that the 14-year-old male was targeted. We think that he was just unfortunately in that block at that time. Several businesses, and I know about 7 or 8 vehicles were damaged. The good thing about that investigation is that we do have several leads. Our detective has identified one of the shooters, and a warrant with him will be forthcoming. Because that shooter is a juvenile, there will not be a press release. MPD does not generally do press releases and references to juveniles, but that case we do expect to be closed very shortly. So I want to thank everybody for their cooperation. Also, that same night, we were able to recover 4 weapons that were connected to the case, so weren't used, to include what's referred to a pistol rifle. They actually brought that in an Uber-like vehicle. That vehicle was stopped. The driver gave consent, and we were able to pull 4 guns off of the street that night in connection to that case. The last thing I'm going to talk about, and I think this is one of the more pressing issues, is that at 1831 Benning Road, at the beginning of the month on October 1st, MPD members received a call for a stabbing, responded to the location and found a victim that was suffering from multiple stab wounds. They tried everything they could, but all life-saving efforts were exhausted, and he did pass en route to the hospital. Now I reached out to the Violent Crimes Bureau today, and I got some stuff that I can release. They have some information that has not been released to the public yet and will not be released until it is gone through and the next of kin have been notified. But we do expect a closure in that case very, very soon. So more details with that case will be forthcoming. However, a lot of the details that we do have are discretionary, and we want to push that stuff to the victim's family before it gets broadcast out into the public. The last thing I do have, and I told him that I would put it out there, is one of our officers, Margadane Van Riel, has been put in for an award. He himself and his partners have recovered 15 illegally carried firearms off the streets of the 5th District alone here in the last month, to include a Mac 11, which is a semi-automatic pistol, which also has automatic tendencies. It is illegal throughout the entire United States, and they were able to apprehend that individual with no force and get that weapon off the street. So I told him I'd bring that up to you guys, so you do know that you have hardworking police officers out there. I put my contact information in there on my email and my cell phone. That's my personal cell phone. I generally will only relay work matters during work times. However, if it's a pressing matter, I got no problem talking to a citizen. But it's 202-695-5188. And also my email address is down there if you have any questions, comments, concerns, funny jokes you heard that day that you want to share with me. I'll take it all. And
all right,
that's the end of mine.
Okay, thank you so much for that update. I appreciate that. I don't have any funny jokes to share with you, unfortunately, though.
Does anybody have any questions for us?
Yeah, so let's start with the commissioners. So commissioners, if you have any questions, and then what we'll do is go ahead and move forward with community questions afterward. So
Yes,
commissioners,
I
any
have a
questions
question.
from you?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, good evening. I'm Commissioner Bernice Blacknell for 5D04. My area is Langston and Carver Terrace. I would like to know, why wasn't the hot areas in this Carver and Langston area part of the fall initiative program, and we still have all this shooting, stabbing, and killing going on?
So try to help you with that. I can tell you that I know those decisions are made above my pay grade and even Captain Merrill's, frankly. But basically, they determine, from what I understand, the summer crime initiative areas and the fall crime initiative areas based upon all of the crime stats that they have, like year over year. And I understand that that particular neighborhood does have a lot of crime, but it just, I'm not sure exactly why it wasn't chosen. I can definitely, I'll write down your question and and try to get an answer for you from our commander. Because like I said, I understand your concern.
Mhm.
Thank
And I
you.
just wanted to piggyback really quickly off Commissioner Blacknell's comment / question, is that, part of the answer that I've gotten is that, well, we had major reductions. We had about a 2/3 reduction in violent crime over the summer.
Yeah, you guys.
So that kind of changes our stats when we're going into looking at who's going to get fall crime initiative resources. But I think the concerning thing for us is that we don't want to see an improvement and then immediately let up on the resources. We want to see some continuation of programs that are helping us so that we can maintain that and change the dynamic over a course of time. And so I think that's the real underlying concern that we had as commissioners. We're our recommendation, and I know Captain Merrill's recommendation and Captain Herbnack had all recommended for us to continue to get those additional resources, but to see that not be the final decision. It seems like we can't forget that certain communities are just now coming out of some of the challenges that we're having, and we still have challenges, and we still have to have the resources to confront the challenges.
I'm totally with you. I wish we could send all of the resources to the 5th district, because like I said, I live here, my mother lives here. I'm raising a child here. So I'm totally with you. So if I had it my way, I would do it, but it's not up to me, but I will. I wrote down your concern and your name and a 5D 04, and I'll make sure I pass that up to the captain, through the captain to the commander, so that we can see if we can get you a more specific answer.
Yeah, much appreciated. And then Commissioner Sauceda-Guzman, I see your hand, and then we'll go to Commissioner Rhodes and then the public.
I'll let Commissioner Rhodes go because I have a constituent that I want to bring their concern up for.
Okay.
So I'll let Rhodes go.
Okay, Commissioner Rhodes.
And the same here. What can we do to make sure that we can keep the resources in our communities, especially 5D01, with the recent shootings? And also, I did reach out to Captain Merrill about a couple of our communities, or a couple of our blocks in Ivy City that my constituents are concerned about. And I just want to know, what can we do to make sure that the residents are safe, and that the uptick in shootings won't keep going on, because people are coming outside, for especially with Halloween coming, and I'm not sure if there'll be any trick-or-treating, but we don't want that to be an opportunity for these young kids out here with all these big firearms. And I also want to know, where are they getting them from? Do y'all have any idea where they're getting these big firearms from?
Yeah.
Y'all don't have to answer right now, but that's just a concern for me personally.
Yeah. For all of us. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
My last assignment before I came here was Criminal Investigations Division. And the amount of guns in the hands of the wrong people, not just in this city, just throughout our country right now, is really unprecedented. I don't think we've seen this many shootings or homicides ever in our country at all. I think homicides and shootings were up 30% last year from the previous year, which is something that has never happened since these stats have been being kept by the FBI. So it's a real issue, and it's not just here. And I know all of you know that. I remember, I've been on the police department 20 years, and under previous regime, I remember Chief Lanier was chief, she testified that, if we got anything less than 3,800 police officers, it would really triple our police department. Now we're under 3,600. I think we're about 3,550. So we're trying to do as much as we can with the numbers that we have. We are hiring again. It's going to be a process, but we are working hard to try to do the best that we can with the resources that we do have. But I can tell you that these are levels like our levels of manpower and staffing are lower than I've seen them in my entire career too. But we're working on it every day, trying to do what we can. But I'll take your concern back as well about keeping the resources in 5D program.
If I may, Lieutenant, and to address Ms. Rhodes, one of your concerns, illegal firearms come from a variety of places. One of the things that we've seen in an uptick, and it's not the full explanation, but it's a partial explanation, is every single one of these guns gets run through our NCIC and Wales database, and a large majority of them are coming back stolen, whether that's that they were stolen in Maryland or stolen in Virginia. But a lot of these guns, once they're stolen, it's tougher to track them. So, but so that is one place that these weapons are coming from, are stolen guns that once they get out onto the streets, they just get passed around until unfortunately they wind up into our hands for whatever reason.
Yeah, straw purchases, stolen. There's many different ways that it happens, but we're going to do all that we can to try to get as many of these illegal guns. Like you said, we had an officer this month that just got 15 guns out of the community. That's a lot of guns. It shouldn't even be that many illegal guns, but we had one officer able to do that. So we are working hard, and the commander makes sure that the people who, that work very well together in getting weapons off the street are out here every day and paired up to try to do that. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. All right. And then we'll move to the public question. I think Tung Nguyen, is that your constituent, Commissioner Guzman?
My constituent's name is Jonathan Anderson Ingebrigtsen.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to go ahead and ask their question? Because I don't see it here in the Q&A.
Bosco, can you unmute him? Because we're pressed on time, I'd like him to speak on his behalf. But Lieutenant and Sergeant, thank you for joining us tonight. The concern that Jonathan wants to bring is that there's a lot of acts of vandalism and harassment happening on our specific block. I represent the Mount Olivet end of Trinidad, and it seems to be the same group of juveniles that have been vandalizing and damaging vehicles and property outside of the rec center. And it just seems like it's the actions are escalating. One thing is like for the kids out to be during the summer doing these things, but we're going into October and it's just getting worse and worse. And there seems to be not any real action or attention on this matter. And it's my concern when it's already been 15 vehicles that have been damaged on this block specifically. And it seems like there is no way for this to be getting any better at the time. So I'll let Jonathan speak for himself just because we're pressed on time, and hopefully we can get some advice on how to proceed.
Thank you, Commissioner. Hello, everyone. My name's Jonathan. We are a military family that lives off of Holbrook Street. And really, I guess I'm voicing the concerns of many in our neighborhood, where we've just seen a massive uptick in vandalism that is taking place, from our car windows being beaten out to children jumping on top of our cars and damaging them, to 2 days ago, I had a piece of concrete thrown at my car while driving and getting out and addressing these kids. We are told that they are empowered to continue these acts of violence because they're not held accountable. They're telling us and using taglines like no face, no case. We literally live right across the street from a Kipp school and the Trinidad Rec Center, where none of these kids are supervised. And it is the same group of kids. Just today, over 5 people's properties, including my own, again, was vandalized by these kids, even with Ring cameras and our alarms going off. And we don't know what to do. I filed several police reports myself, my neighbors have, and we're told over and over again that there's nothing they can do because they're minors. And because of this, these minors are emboldened to continue these acts of violence with no stop to them. And, we're getting verbally harassed. And we've submitted tens of thousands of dollars of insurance claims now, and we don't know what to do, and we're turning to our community leaders and police officers for help because this is getting expensive. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Let me ask you, because like I said, I'm brand new back to this district. I've been here in a couple of years, so I don't know the answer to this. Have you guys actually been calling 911 when these things happen, or have you been doing like online reports, or can you tell me about the process? Like,
Yeah, both. We have reports filled out with Officer Daniel Rourke, and
Okay.
then Officer Anthony Bigelow. His badge is 2973. And those are just the ones that I've personally filled out. And we're calling 911 at the time of the incident. And obviously I understand that this is vandalism compared to active crimes of shootings and stabbings, and that those do definitely take precedent. But by the time the cops make it out there, obviously these kids are gone, but they're there every day, going to different houses and just going down the street. I made a post on Nextdoor today, and 2 other people commented that the same group of kids went and broke a bunch of their trash cans, took a bunch of their stuff on their front lawns. So they basically sweep through our neighborhood like a tornado on a daily basis.
So this is the process. If you see this group of children that are actively engaging in destruction of property or that type of behavior, you need to call 911, and the officers that respond to the scene, if the children are still there. So try to call as quick as you can. Make sure you're very specific about their description. Hopefully they're not all wearing uniforms and have on the same thing, but if they are, then try to focus on maybe their shoes or hat, something that can differentiate the children who are committing the crimes from the other ones, so that the officers can stop them, positively identify them. And if the Office of the Attorney General, because we are supposed to call the Office of the Attorney General if we have a juvenile stop that we believe has that we have probable cause to believe that person committed a crime, we have to call the OAG's office to get permission from them to actually make the arrest. And if they say no, don't lock them up, then do a warrant, well, at least we have them stopped, positively identified, or we can submit a custody order to the OAG's office for them to go ahead and help us, put a custody order out and place these children under arrest. But you definitely have to call us 911 so that we can stop them and at least identify them.
Okay, and I'm seeing the messages come in from Jacque Patterson. I am happy to share videos and picture images that I have of these kids to try and help identify. That's not an issue. As a community, have video and pictures. It's identifying the parents is what we're told you guys need help with. And so if that's something schools can help us with.
Yeah, so, it's nice to know who the parents are, right? If you want to talk to the parents and try to get the parents to talk to their children. But if we have probable cause to believe that they committed a crime, we can either do a custody order for them, which is the equivalent of a warrant for an adult, do a custody order for them, or maybe arrest them on probable cause, depending on what the OAG's office says. When we call them, there's a hotline number that we call. But we can take them off the street if we have them positively identified, and we know that they committed the crime. And that's what's most important. The parents, they'll definitely come into play once their child is arrested, then they'll have to deal with going through the court system or whatever the courts say that they have to do in order to try and remediate their child or whatever. But if they're not doing anything at this point, we don't know who the parents are at this point, I would say definitely just call 911.
Okay, and my last question, I guess, would be, is an incident like that happened the other day when I was driving and I have a chunk of concrete thrown at my car and I get out and there's 12 of them there and none of them will turn each other in. So I can't positively ID which child it is. I just have pictures of everyone that was there. Are we basically in a standstill until we can identify which specific kid it was?
I can tell you,
Mr. Anderson, Lou, if I don't, if you don't mind if I take this,
Sure.
if you could email those pictures to me, I can forward them to Sergeant Demetrius Carter. He is our school security sergeant in charge of the schools in the 5th district, and him and his officers would probably be the best ones to identify be able to identify the juveniles and be able to get the custody orders, since they do work with the schools on a daily basis. It's their job. They know the repeat offenders and they know the kids much better than us. So even if we can identify them, if you could forward me those pictures, yeah. I'd greatly appreciate it.
Could you have someone please type your email in the chat box? You said it a little quick for me there.
I thought I did, but I'll do it again.
Okay, and then I'm just going to have to cut us just a little bit short here, but you guys have had the opportunity to exchange information. So if you'll exchange any additional details, and I just want to highlight, had Jacque Patterson from Kipp, who's their community outreach coordinator, And he's offered his support if it turns out any of the children are indeed associated with the school or wearing school uniforms in those videos.
Thank you very much for
Okay.
the time.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you raising your concerns. Next question, and we'll just have to limit it to these 2 questions before we move forward in the agenda. Tung Nguyen, is MPD taking any proactive measures or ideas to prevent these shootings in the future? So I think that was in regards to the shootings that you all mentioned near us in Rosedale, as well as in Trinidad over the recent months.
Yeah, we're definitely trying, we're being proactive. We have officers out here that are actively looking for illegal guns. So we're doing everything we can to prevent it, but random shootings are, often difficult to prevent. I mean, we're using intelligence to try to tell us when these things might happen. And sometimes we can get ahead of it. And occasionally, we're all kind of surprised by something that happens. So if you see something, say something. That's the one thing I'll definitely say to the community. Don't be afraid to call 911 to say you see a suspicious person. Don't feel bad about that because it's your neighborhood. You know if somebody belongs there or not, if they look like they're doing something they shouldn't be doing or not. That's the best thing I can tell you. And that would help us greatly as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then our last question comes from Ha-Jung Na. Good evening, and I'm happy to see this. This is the owner of Sylvia's Liquors. Earlier today, one of the customers brought a $100 counterfeit bill. So we caught that and reported 911, waited 20 minutes, but officer didn't arrive. And the woman who had the fake money started acting up, screaming, and blocked the entrance of the store, and our customers couldn't come in the store. I had to call 911 again, but they just asked me if I want to cancel the call. I believe I shouldn't return when we find any fake money, but she was going crazy and keep asking for money returned. I understand MPD is busy, but any suggestions? The woman was disturbing my business.
Yeah, I can answer that one. Unfortunately, the priorities of calls are not made by MPD. They're made by our Office of Unified Communications. So if you do have to call back to 911, always say, no, I don't want to cancel, but continue to describe the behavior that the person is escalating and what they're doing. Additionally, if you believe it to be counterfeit, please hold on to it. If it doesn't put you at danger, please hold on to it. We will come, we will collect it, and we'll turn it over to the Secret Service. Even if that person does not get in trouble for it, what the Secret Service does is that they record where these bills are being used and where they're being distributed at, so that they can use the smaller bills to build up to their larger cases. So as far as the time response, that's unfortunately a priority decision made by our Office of Unified Communication, which is not underneath the purview of MPD. But as far as the answer to counterfeit bills, yes, if you do find bills that you believe to be counterfeit and it's not going to endanger you or you're going to feel safe, hold on to it. It's not illegal as long as you are holding on to it to turn it over to the police.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your presentation this evening and all the questions you answered, MPD. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you next month. Okay. Next up on our agenda, we'll be hearing from Nokomis Hunter at the Executive Office of the Mayor. Mr. Hunter, if you are here, if you could go ahead and raise your hand or begin your presentation. I don't see you, but if you're here, if you could raise your hand, or if anyone's here from the mayor's office.
Isla Woods is here.
Okay. All right. And I'm not seeing, if you could raise your hand.
She has her hand raised in the attendees.
Okay. We're going to, all right, and you should be promoted momentarily. Okay, got it.
Oh,
Ms.
wonderful.
Woods. Okay,
Hello,
go.
everyone.
Hello,
I'm
good
so glad to
evening.
be with you all. I feel like I haven't seen you all in so long. Okay, so I know we're short on time, so I'm not going to, I'll try to speed through this, but I want to be really clear about some of the state EC updates that we've been sharing. So I know I've been saying at all of these meetings that September 26th was when all rules returned back to normal. And that is the case, but starting today, October 12th, all hearings will resume. But, if you have an application with state EC pending, please make sure to let either your advocate know, your housing advocate know, or when you appear to court, to let them know that you have an application pending, because you can hold off your hearing until your application is either approved or not. So make sure if you have a pending application to just notify the court. So you just have a little bit of wiggle room there. And again, all hearings will resume, did resume today. I do want to share some updates because as November approaches, all adults who are regularly in schools or childcare facilities in the district must be vaccinated against COVID-19. So this applies to DCPS, DC public charter schools, private schools, and all child care facilities regulated by OANC. And so there will not be a test out option. And so because that option has been around for a while, it's really important that we educate each other about what options are available come November. Keep in mind though that those third dose shots, I know everyone's been asking, is it time to get my third dose? Please make sure before you do that to speak with your doctor because they are still only approved for certain immunocompromised folks. So it's really important that you're checking that out. I do want to give DC just a little bit of a shout out because as of October 4th, 70% of DC residents are either partially or fully vaccinated, and almost 90% of DC residents above 65 have been fully vaccinated. So we're definitely a great example for the nation. And it's been a journey supporting each other, guiding each other through some really scary conversations. So I appreciate you all. Last but not least, DDOT. So I know that all of us have been really pulling on DDOT, trying to pull them into conversation. I really appreciate that we've been able to get some folks to some meetings, but this has caught the attention of the mayor, and so she's really worked to, I know some of the ANCs probably got calls from me on Friday, trying to rush and get some reports because she wanted to look into a bit of what's going on in Ward 5. So the mayor is working to accelerate and streamline community responses with DDOT. So it's clear that we have residents who want to give feedback, want to let DDOT know exactly where those tough spots are. And so all we have to do now is create those avenues to do so. And so we've heard you, and it's going to be a journey. But my next step, along with my partner Nokomis, is to schedule a meeting. We've already reached out to DDOT about it. That's Ward 5 specific. Just so we can start to chip at these issues that seem to be lapping over in different SMDs within Ward 5. Yeah. Okay.
And I appreciate that. I'll go ahead and confirm that I did get that call, 2 of them last week. And so I do appreciate you all reaching out because as you can see from our agenda, we do have, a letter of reprimand for DDOT based on a lot of the activities that have gone on in our commission in 5D. And we do know that there are broader issues, particularly in Ward 5, about just basic services and the need to improve there. And so I did receive a letter that looked partially in response to a lot of the concerns that we raised in 5D from the interim director, Mr. Lott, today, which, I'm glad to hear him at least acknowledge, some of the challenges that we've seen, and hopefully we can move forward together to make some improvements. So I appreciate you elevating those issues.
Of course. And I'm available for any questions. I got my notepad ready.
Mm-hmm. Very briefly, we'll take one question from a commissioner And then I do see a question from Tung Nguyen, but if we don't have, I'm gonna move forward without that question just because we've already heard from you previously, unless we get a question from someone else who hasn't had an opportunity to speak yet. So any one question from one of the commissioners? Okay, all right. So thank you, Ms. Woods. I don't see any additional questions from the public. And we'll just go ahead and move forward in the agenda to the Ward 5 Council Member's office.
No problem. I'll go ahead.
I have a question. I have a question real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick. I was told that the money is running out on the state DC. Is that true? And will DC be getting funds that were unused from other states? I heard that as well.
I'm glad that I can clear that up for you. So
Thank you.
we made so essentially with state DC, there was a threshold that DC had to meet before, I believe it, I don't want to mess up, but there was a date and we met it. We passed that threshold. So there is not a deadline that's coming up in anytime soon. But we passed that threshold. So I'm glad that we were all able to let our neighbors know about state DC.
So there'll still be funds throughout the year, the rest of the year.
Yep. And so now it's still that 3 to 4 week application process. So
Yeah.
the sooner the better, but yes, the
funds are
funds are still there.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, and then just to be clear, it's not that you all are only allowed to ask one question, but we try to give people an opportunity to talk and do our best to stay on our agenda, and we're already a little bit behind. And so what I'm going to encourage you all to do is take your questions to the chat, since they're pretty simple, kind of straightforward questions. So Ms. Woods, if you could please leave your contact information in the chat. And if you could please, address the question there from Tung Nguyen in the chat so that everyone can see that. So that's how we're going to handle that, just for the sake of time. So it's not that you're not allowed. We don't want to discourage you, but we do want to try to keep to our agenda as much as possible. Okay. All right. And thank you so much, Ms. Woods. If we have Mr. Grant or Ms. Sislo from Councilmember McDuffie's office, if you want to share or raise your hand if you are in the attendees area. I'm not seeing anyone with a raised hand. Okay.
I don't think anyone's present for them.
Okay, I don't think so. So we'll move forward in the agenda to commission actions. I think this might be getting us close to being back on schedule. We have with us tonight Christopher Dyer from DPR, the other DP, to talk with us about a ready to play plan update, which is DPR's long-term planning document that they're currently working on. So the floor is yours, Mr. Dyer.
Why, thank you. I'm also going to do a quick PSA for some of the other exciting programs we're doing. It is wonderful to be at an ANC meeting. I was a former ANC commissioner myself. We're DPR, where the fun happens, and these ANC meetings certainly are where the fun does happen. So my name is Christopher Dyer. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the Department of Parks and Rec. I joined the staff about 3 months ago, and we've been hitting the ground running. This is part of my road show, our fall tour, as I call it. Want to give a brief overview for those of you who are not familiar with us. We are the #1 ranked park system in the country. We host programming and events year-round in 243 sites and across 725 acres in all 8 wards. We have about 100 different capital improvement projects in our construction pipeline across the year. We operate in all seasons. We are now in our fall programming season, where we are accepting, although the fall programs are beginning to run out, but we do have, if you go to dprprograms.com and visit it, you'll find an ability to register for stuff. We'll also be having winter programs up pretty soon, probably sometime early next month. We offer programs in person for a variety of programs, including aquatics, cultural arts, fitness. Again, visit dprprograms.com. We also offer a variety of in-person virtual programs for those of you who are not comfortable coming into our rec centers. I've tried one of these virtual fitness courses. It was very nice not running over another patron in a club, and I didn't make a total fool out of myself as well. So they do happen if you're interested in doing something online. Aquatics update. Obviously, we have closed all of our pools for the season. And we have indoor pool hours posted. We are waiting to bring Tacoma Pool up online. It's closed until the spring, and then Turkey Ticket is going to be coming online sometime early in the winter of 2022. I know that's a relatively close indoor pool for those of you in Ward 5. We also have DCPS pool hours for a variety of times as well. We also, if you're looking to do an event, special event, we encourage you to consider using DPR as a place to have an event. One of the highlights of my outreach so far is having a 5-year-old come up to me and tell me that it was his best day ever at a birthday party that his father organized at a Parks and Rec facility, and that was cute. And the parent was also quite impressed, apparently, with how easy it is to do our stuff. Please visit dprprograms.dc.gov permits. Anyway, sorry. If you're interested, or give them a call at 202-673-6747. I was remiss in telling you, we do have some Halloween activities coming up. And in Trinidad Rec Center, there is a Nightmare on Childress Street on Thursday, the 28th from 4 to 8 p.m. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but that is an event. I'm going to put a URL into the messaging that you can go to find all activities about parks that are going on around Halloween. And you commissioners will be getting one of my patented emails sometime in the next couple of days about the link to where you can find all the Halloween activities. And if you want us to do a flyer for the specific activity, let me know and I'll get one made so you can get that out to your constituents. Ready to play. Here's the update. So we had a summer update. And for those who do not know, Ready to Play is our 20-year capital plan. And we're going to be launching a new one in the next couple months. Over the summer, we released an update that includes a draft set of 4 goals with 13 strategies and 85 specific actions. There's a draft equity framework. And if you're interested in looking at the results of the Ready to Play citywide survey, please visit readytoplaydc.com to provide feedback on these items. This feedback is crucial because it'll help finalize the draft capital blueprint, which will be released sometime this fall. And when that is released, if you guys want me to have someone who is really specifically more on working on this to come and make a presentation in front of your group or answer questions in a small committee meeting or in a public meeting, please let me know, because that's where we're going to need your feedback. Because once the draft capital blueprint is reviewed, it'll become the actual capital blueprint, which will dictate all of our activities for the next 20 years. So we're very excited about that. And I know I sit right across the cubicle farm from the 2 people who are working on this project, and they are definitely burning the midnight oil trying to get this done. So we're looking to that. Want to do one last final reminder to make things safe for our parks, or to to make things comfortable. Please make sure with the pets in the park, we love your pets and dogs, but remember that off-leash dogs are only permitted in DPR's designated dog facilities. Leash dogs must be held by a person capable of managing the dog, and please don't let them run on our natural turf or synthetic turf fields. And finally, please pick up after your pet. It is required by law, and you could get a fine of up to $2,000. And really, quite frankly, we would not want you to have that experience of getting a fine when you're visiting our fine facilities. That's not a positive thing. So please keep up to your pets. Here are another bunch of general prohibited rules. I'll highlight the one about bonfires or open flames are prohibited. I'm a big fan of doing s'mores and roasted marshmallows, but just don't do it in a DPR park. And there's a variety of stuff. I will also send this presentation to the commissioners afterwards, so you can post this online if you do such things. I'm also going to put my contact information in the chat. So if you want a copy of this dynamic presentation, you can email me and I will send it to you. Finally, if you have any questions, additional questions on DPR activities, or need assistance with a specific issue, please contact me. I'm your point of contact now with the agency. I'm specifically assigned. I have a lot of things I do, but I specifically enjoy working with ANCs and community associations and civic associations and anyone who is actually interested in helping us. So if you see something wrong with one of our parks and want to try to get it fixed, if you can snap a picture of it and email it to me, I will put in a ticket to get it replaced, or I'll direct you to our in-house website that we use with DGS, who does the repairs of our facility. Again, my name is Dyer. My phone number is 202-702-9453. That's 202-702-9453. And email is christopher.dyer@dc.gov. And again, please feel free to call. I had a commissioner actually call me at 7 in the morning a couple of days ago. I wasn't quite awake, but we got back to her. And so I'm now going to drop my contact information into the chat, and I'm going to take this presentation down and answer any questions you guys might have. Thank you for letting me come in.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate your succinct presentation. You hit all the high points. You already know what my top question is because you did your homework before the meeting. But we're looking for additional recreation facilities specifically for the Carver-Langston community. Yes. And as there are redevelopment plans swirling around for Heckinger Mall. And I think one of the things for us is that if there's a 20-year plan in place, I don't see how you can overlook, development of the size and scale that we're anticipating and already seeing in this community as part of that long-term planning. And so, I know that you're not the guy to say, yes, it's in the plan. But what I do want to do is, just remind you as a representative of DPR that the director has been invited and accepted our invitation to attend an upcoming zoning meeting. And I did hear you reiterate that, and we'd love to have you as well. But we want to have some continued discussions around that.
Yeah, no, I'm your guy. I'm your person. If you want to have a discussion, please forward me. The director is aware I'm here. And by the way, we are certainly aware that you are very interested in having a facility added to Carver-Langston. I can't promise anything because, that would not be fun, but I'm certain that that voice has been heard. And you'll be given an opportunity once the blueprint is out, if you don't see it, to give us a formal resolution or, keep poking us gently with a stick is what I'm saying, because we have a lot of engaged communities. By the way, we're about to reopen I know it's not quite in your ANC, but we're about to reopen a new rec center at Arboretum. It's coming online in the next couple of months. And I know Rosedale is down the road from you guys. So, those are alternatives, but I also know the importance of having a rec center, especially if Heckinger Mall gets redeveloped.
Right.
Yeah. So
and,
that is
really for us, the primary thing I'll raise is that for all of the communities that Rosedale currently supports, it's really at capacity, especially in the summertime. So we already have lines of children waiting to go one by one into the pool. And that's before you even start to see a lot of the additional housing it's slated for other plans, coming online in this area of Ward 5.
No, I certainly appreciate that. And we will certainly convey your ongoing advocacy around this to make sure that we have a rec facility. I found out actually, interestingly, we're a victim of our own success, that we're having good turnout in almost every facility we have. And I was in the middle of beginning my outreach plan. We don't really have to even do aggressive outreach around our summer camps because they get full. The rec center that's opening up is at Arboretum. And it's under construction right now. I don't remember the exact address. I'm seeing a chat come up. I'm sorry. Apologies. But it's going to be an Arboretum. I think it's on Rand Street, Rand Place. It's a replacement of the rec center that used to be there. I'm sorry, Commissioner, not jumping on your question. Are there any other questions? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think that's it from me. Anything else from the other commissioners?
Yeah, so I got one question. Commissioner Moore, I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
To ask. Okay, hi, good evening. My name is Commissioner Bernice Blacknell. I'm the ANC Commissioner for 5D04. I'm also the ANC Commissioner for the schools on the Hill. It's been some confusion. There's a tennis court across the street from Brown Academy. There's a basketball court there, and there's also a picnic area. Now, the principal at Brown has been calling, and I was informed that it was a part of DDOT. I mean, not DDOT, I'm saying Parks and Recreation. If it is, can we get some help in cleaning it up for the school and the community?
Certainly. Can you do me a big favor? I'm going to take a note of this. You want to know, Brown, do you happen to know the address of it?
It's right across the street from Brown Academy, the school. Okay. They call them schools on the hill. It's right next to Spingarn's field. It's a little tennis court area. It's a basketball court area, and it's also a picnic area. It's like on
You
26.
know what the unit block, sorry, I'm sorry, what's the address on near of the
26 in Benning Road.
26 in Benning? Okay, great. I will take a look to see if that's in our, if it's in our inventory, and I will get back to you. And if it's not being cleaned up, I will make sure that we try to get.
It's not. It looks horrible, and it's also it's a foxhole there. The kids from Brown go there during the gym hours and have gym and stuff, and they have to come back in the building. The area's been neglected. So
Yeah.
just trying to get some clarification.
Yeah, just those courts, and that's the 800 block of 26th Street, just those courts, not the field next to it, just the court area is a DPR.
Okay. I will take a note. No, Commissioner, I will follow up with you afterwards and take my notes to make sure I'm getting the stuff I need to get answers, and I will get back to you on that. So
thank you.
You're welcome, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And then I see do we have any other questions from commissioners before I move to the public questions? Okay. I see we have 2 public questions. Neither one of these is a DPR question, but I am going to go ahead and get to them. And just a note for in the future, if you have questions that aren't related to the topic, if you'll hold them for the community concerns section, we'll get to the questions there. Mr. Keats, you're asking about an open water meter. I did receive that complaint and I responded to that neighbor who sent the complaint. It's part of a larger repair, and I'm expecting an update from DC Water on that later this week. And Ms. Williams, the entrance to the Arboretum. So the Arboretum is federal property. So was the entrance on M Street, Northeast Maryland Avenue of the Arboretum been open? The mayor was looking into this when she attended our meeting previously. And so that is part of an ongoing challenge that we're facing as a community and trying to get that reopened. Everyone in DC is in support of that. The Arboretum is in support of that. Now we're just at the federal level looking for funding in order to support all of the changes needed to make that happen. So please know that that is on our radar. And you know, our Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton is in support as well. And it's just a matter of looking for funding in the budget to do it.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore, because I've been receiving a whole bunch of emails in reference to that. And I keep telling them it's a money issue. It's a money situation.
Yes. Okay. So we do have a question here for DPR. Hi, Christopher. This is from Tung Nguyen. And just a reminder to everyone, if you could put your questions in the Q&A so we can keep track of them, I'd appreciate it. This question is from Tung Nguyen. Hi, Christopher. Is there any community engagement for planning of Cromell School Park from now until the end of this year?
I suspected that would be a question. We are waiting. I can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure we will have an engagement session sometime in the next 2 months, because Cromwell, as we all know, has been given, the budget has been approved, and we are beginning to do some procurement on finding a contractor to do the development. We have to wait with DGS. And so I'm sure we will be doing something with Cromwell this fall, this winter, and if not in November and December, certainly in January. And I suspect we are going to be doing a lot of engagement around this for the rest of the year, because it's going to be very exciting. And we're excited about Cromwell coming back online.
Okay, and then this will be our... Great, yes. And this will be our last question of the evening. It's actually twofold from Jose Morales. No worries, Jose. I like to reiterate the rules about Q&A just for everyone. Is there a system to schedule use of the indoor basketball courts at Trinidad Rec Center? And also Mr. Morales suggests some cleaning up. There's a lot of trash on the playground at Trinidad Rec.
Thank you, Mr. Morales, for the questions. The answer for indoor facilities is check out our permits department, dpr.permits.gov/permits, and they should be able to do the permitting for all indoor facilities if we are taking indoor reservations at Trinidad right now. I know we were beginning to do that. Also, in terms of volunteering, if someone would like to try to set up a Friends of group as a nonprofit to help us support Trinidad, or if someone wants to volunteer and lead a group to do that work, we will be happy to facilitate that. Please email me and I'll connect you with our partnership team. We'd always love to help. We have a lot of volunteers across the city. If someone's interested, we're not going to say no.
Okay, all right. And then just Mr. Morales says, also, will there be a waitlist portion for DPR sports activities for children? They get filled up very quickly.
Thank you for that question. We also, the woman, in fact, the ANC commissioner who was calling me at 7 in the morning, who I mentioned earlier, was trying to figure out how she could get off the wait list at one of our very popular aerobic classes. So the answer is, I've addressed this with our folks in Community Rec. They are looking into the way of doing a wait list. Logistically, it might be a challenge, but if there's a specific program that you are seeing that you want to see if because we don't generally, we're not in the process of, we try not to actually kick people out of classes for not showing up, but we're working on sort of figuring out a way to do that if it's possible. So that's a very convoluted answer of saying we're aware of it, we're working on it, and I don't know if we're going to come up with a good answer on it. So hopefully that's interesting.
Okay, very much appreciated. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Dyer. If you could please include your contact information in the chat so that people know how to reach you. And we'll, just for everyone's benefit, we'll be posting this entire meeting online. It's actually on YouTube Live right now.
Cool.
So you'll be able to see all of the information Mr. Dyer shared there.
Actually, if I can just answer a question that was in the chat from Amy about Lou's Crow Park for a second.
So actually, if you could answer that directly to Amy in the chat, I'd appreciate it so that we can.
I'm sorry. Yep, I'll get off your. Yep, I'll yield my. I'll get. You need to get on with the meeting. I appreciate it.
I will reclaim my time.
Reclaim your time. I'm sorry to try to grab it from you. You guys are awesome. Thank you all for your help and service.
Thank you for the time, sir. We
Thank
appreciate
you. Very much appreciate it. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and keep moving forward in the agenda. We have Ryan Triller tonight here to present a proposal at Spingarn about AT&T cellular antennas. So if Mr. Triller, do you need to share your screen with us?
Good evening. My name is Doug Sampson. I'm a colleague of Ryan Triller. I'll actually be taking it from here, if that's all right with you.
Okay, that's fine with me. Do you need to share your screen, Mr. Sampson?
Yes, I do have a PowerPoint, if that's all right.
Okay. And Bosco, if you could give Mr. Sampson co-host ability. Thank you. Okay, whenever you're ready.
All right, good evening. My name is Doug Sampson. I'm here on behalf of AT&T to discuss a proposal for a new telecommunication facility at Spingarn High School on Benning Road in Northeast DC. On today's call today for AT&T is myself. I'm outside counsel from the law firm of Saul, Ewing, Arnstein & Lear. Ryan Triller, who's from SmartLink. They work with real estate and site acquisition for AT&T. And Camille Shabshab, who did the engineering drawings and can answer any engineering questions we have. I'll move through this presentation pretty quick. I know that there might be some questions or concerns. I'd be happy to address those at the end. I do know that Commissioner Blacknell has already written some letters to the zoning board about this. So be happy to answer any questions or concerns people have afterwards. So the purpose for this site, and I should state that what we are planning to do is replace an existing light pole at Spingarn High School that is near the athletic fields with another light pole that will replace the same athletic lights on top of the pole, but will put telecommunications antennas above the light. So it's what we call a drop and swap. We're going to replace an existing light pole with a brand new light pole that will also be equipped with telecommunications antennas. The reason we're doing this is it will add some much needed and improved wireless services in Washington, DC, and specifically in Ward 5. This will accommodate AT&T and up to 2 additional wireless carriers. It will enhance the public safety network known as FirstNet, which I will talk about a little bit more in a minute. Again, we're replacing the existing light pole at the high school athletic fields. And it will fill coverage gaps that AT&T and other providers need to fill in the area with little visual impact and no adverse effects. And the facility will comply with all federal, state, and local laws. So again, the goals here are really reliable services in and around Northeast DC. enhanced emergency and non-emergency wireless access and services. Again, part of FirstNet, which is a network access for first responders and public safety, and really reliable services that support the ongoing and increased wireless usage, including working remotely, having meetings like this, telehealth, in-class virtual school, online worship services, and things like that. I can tell you that during the last 18 months, AT&T's nationwide network has increased by 20% in usage due to everybody working from home and working remotely and going to school remotely. So the need for coverage and increased coverage is definitely something that we're concerned about and want to try to bring increased wireless services to the area. So what is FirstNet? FirstNet is a dedicated network access and bandwidth for first responders. There's an exclusive contract between the federal government and AT&T. Now this came following the 9/11 Commission, following the September 11th attacks, where emergency wireless networks were completely jammed with people trying to make calls. And as a result, first responders couldn't respond and get to where they needed to go, couldn't communicate with each other. So the 9/11 Commission looked at that and decided that that couldn't happen again. So with congressional authorization, the federal government entered into this contract with AT&T. It supports more than 15,000 federal, state, and local agencies, including FEMA, Department of the Army, Department of the Navy, FBI. It also does, a lot of the DC first responders also use this network. During the COVID pandemic in particular, we've seen more than 2 million daily connections responding to emergencies. And all 50 states and 6 territories, as well as the District of Columbia, opted into the FirstNet program by January 2018. And again, this is a dedicated network and bandwidth specifically for first responders. So here's just an overview of the location. You can see the football athletic field there at Spingarn High School. The red marker there is where the existing light pole is and where the new light pole that we're planning to replace it with will go. The facility will look very similar to the current light pole. Again, the existing field lights will be replaced and put back on this new pole. The tower will be gated and locked, located at the side of the field that has lower foot traffic. So I believe it's on the visitor side, but it was specifically selected of the poles that are available at the athletic field to try to take the spot where there would be the least amount of foot traffic. It's an unmanned facility that is primarily managed remotely, but could be visited 3 to 4 times a year by a technician just to inspect it and make sure everything's going the right way. Here's an overlook from our site plans. Again, this is the facility that will be put in place. You can see it by the square there at the bottom of the screen, right along 26th Street there. Here's a look at the compound. What you're seeing down at the bottom there, kind of inside the blue circle, the smaller circle is the light pole that will be replaced. There will be some underground wires that will go to the equipment compound, which will be located in the rectangle there near the top of your screen. Here's a look at it from the side. Again, you can see the existing light pole that is currently there and the replacement light pole. We're only increasing the height, I think, by 7 feet. I believe it's an 82-foot antenna that, 85-foot existing pole that is, no, 82, I was right. 81, yes, I'm sorry, 81. It's an 81-foot pole at the moment. We're putting an 89-foot tower in place of it. The lights will be at about the same height, but the antennas for AT&T will go above that. There is co-location opportunities for 2 additional carriers. Whether carriers will co-locate here or not, we can't say for certain, but that is usually a requirement by the code to allow co-locations of other wireless providers. And then here are just a couple of photo simulations showing the existing view down to the left. Up to the top of the left, you can see the point of view. So this is looking basically across the end zone from the other side of the field. And what you see to your right is what the simulation of rendering of what this will look like when it's complete. So you can see the replacement pole, the lights there, and then on top of that will be the antenna array facility. Here's another look. This is going straight north on 26th Street. And you can see there's an existing light pole there in the foreground, and then the replacement light pole that will replace the current light pole in the background there. And then here's another look at it, basically kitty corner from the other side of the football field. Again, you can see the replacement pole, the lights there facing towards the field, and then the antennas up at the top. So that's the presentation, a basic overview of the project. But I understand that there may be questions or concerns, and I'd like to use the remainder of my time to answer any questions. And we do have, again, Ryan Triller and Camille here, who might be able to talk specifically about any questions that I can't answer.
Okay, so let's get questions from the commissioners to start off with before we move to questions from the public. Please, just as a reminder to everyone, if you could put your questions in the Q&A box so that we can track them. And then we'll carry on side conversations in the chat as the meeting continues, if you want to take those discussions offline. So any questions or concerns to raise from the commissioners?
Yes, Commissioner Moore, I do
Okay.
have a concern. Sir, do y'all know that Spingarn field will be used by different schools in Phelps and everything? And do y'all have any, consideration about, radiation and everything? And have y'all spoke to the schools in this? Have y'all been out and communicate this with the residents in the surrounding area? And the reason I'm saying this, sir, is because the Department of General Service has a very bad habit of not communicating with the residents or the schools in reference to this.
Sure, no, and I understand your concerns there, and the Department of General Services does own this property, and we have been working closely with them and with the school to get the permissions to have this project moving forward. The part of our community outreach has obviously been this meeting and to bring this to you. We would be happy to do additional community outreach with people in that area. I'll be also happy to make my contact information available, so any citizens who have questions or concerns can reach out to me directly, and I will put that in the chat before I leave here this evening. And I do. Go ahead. I can answer the second part of your question, but if you have something else, please.
Yeah, because me and the principal at Brown, we have been real close and concerned about this. And she said nobody has been to the school to discuss this. So I would like to know when will y'all be going out to the schools and discuss this with the principals and also the residents in the area. There are a lot of senior citizens in the area and everything. So I would like to know, when are y'all planning on doing this? I know y'all hearing this on December the 15th, but please reach out to the community in the schools.
Okay, and that's what I love about these meetings is I wasn't aware that that was a concern, and we will certainly take steps to do that and reach out to the schools and alleviate any concerns that they may have. I do want to address another thing that you brought up about safety concerns and radiation. And I would just tell you that there's a lot of misinformation out there about radio frequency emissions. First of all, they are not radiation in the sense of what we consider ionizing radiation, which is what causes cancer. That is not what we're talking about here. The FCC, the American Cancer Society, the World Health Organization have all found that there's absolutely no adverse health effects caused by radio frequency emissions. And so I understand when these are being put up in communities that people have concerns about them. Before I started doing this work, I did my own homework to make sure I felt comfortable about it. I can tell you that putting these up on school properties is becoming more and more common. You're seeing it all across Northern Virginia and a lot of other areas. These radio frequency antennas are located on the top of pretty much any hospital or tall building. And they really do cover a lot of these cities throughout the area. So I understand the concerns, but I can tell you that the FCC heavily regulates the emissions levels to make sure that there aren't any health concerns and that AT&T's facilities are well below those limits. So while I do understand people having concerns about that, and there's a lot, if you look out there on the internet, there's a lot of misinformation about that. But as I said, the federal government, the FCC, the American Cancer Society, and the World Health Organization have all found that there's no adverse effects caused by RF emissions.
And make sure it's well secured, please, because like I said, again, that field is used by the kids. Phelps go there and practice. There are a lot of schools that go to that field to practice. And my concern is the safety of the kids when they're playing their football games, soccer games, or whatever.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I can tell you that it's AT&T's policy that these facilities are very heavily secured and fenced and locked, and we make sure that they cannot be accessed by anybody except AT&T or other wireless provider personnel. But that comment is certainly well taken, and we will make sure that that is a priority for this particular site, given its location.
Okay, all right. We're going to go ahead and move forward to public questions, and I'm going to go a little bit out of order because this second question is related to that previous answer in relation to the concerns in the community about radiated power. From Kevin Horgan asks, did you consider moving the light pole to the opposite side of the field further from the school?
So we considered replacing all 4 of the light poles that are there on the football field. And again, the location was selected specifically because of its location where it would be the least amount of foot traffic. And again, I understand the concerns with RF emissions, but really that didn't enter into the equation as much as the physical facility itself. And this, as Commissioner Blacknell brought up, making sure that we're not leaving it in a highly trafficked area. So the location was chosen, again, because it was the least trafficked area and felt like it would put the least amount of burden on the school property and also not have as many people trafficking through that particular area. So that was the main consideration.
Okay, well, very much appreciated. What I'm going to do at this point is I see some other questions here about CDMA or GSM and other carriers. What I'm going to ask people to do, since this is in our final hearing on this, is if you'll follow up with those questions in the chat. And Mr. Sampson, if you could include your contact information and any of the questions that we've got from our constituents about, really most of them boil down to communicating clearly with the school about any communications tools that they're currently using to avoid conflicts. But if you could please include your follow-up contact information in the chat, and we'll let that conversation continue there so that we can move forward in the agenda. And we'll have you all back ahead of any final vote from us as a commission on how to move forward with the plan.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. And next up on our agenda, we'll have a follow-up presentation from Jacque Patterson, who is the Community Outreach Specialist at Kipp College Prep. So Mr. Patterson, if you're here and you want to go ahead and share with us, do you need to share your screen for your update?
I do not, ma'am. And
Okay.
I will keep this very brief because I know you're trying to keep everyone on schedule and be respectful to everyone's time.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. But I will follow up and say that things that have happened in the last month since last week I presented to you. And I came to you guys last month because we had a death of a student, a stabbing of a child in front of the facility of the school, and what we were doing about that and who we had met with. And I wanted to come back in front of you guys and just to say that Kipp has been very active again, just making sure we're out in the community. We have employed Growing Up. We contracted with them, which is a violent interruption group. So they now are on campus and they are working with our parents and working with our students, and we're making sure that those relationships are being built so that they're out there on a regular basis. They're out there in the mornings, they're out there in the evenings, they're doing things inside the school. And then when they're out in the community, when children are in class and everything like that, they're finding out how things are happening. So we're trying to get in front of a lot of the incidents that happen with students. You guys had someone present earlier today that lives across the campus, street from one of our other campuses in Ward 5 as well. And we're looking into things and trying to be very proactive in working with our families in all ways. And that's why I always leave my number in the chat. I can do it again, but I left it in there earlier today. But whenever there's activity that's happening with our children that we can identify, we will approach them and we will try to resolve that issue. We do want to be good neighbors. We understand that we're a school and kids will be kids, but at the same time, we do want them to, you know, get to their well-being or their destinations as soon as possible. To that effect, today there was a hearing that was based on legislation that was put forth by Councilmember Che and Councilmember Henderson on safe passage. As Kipp DC's Community Engagement and Growth Officer, I testified for that this morning at around 10:30 and talked about some of the services that we need that will affect your community as well. And those include like having microbuses, getting kids moved from out in front of schools. And as a gentleman talked about earlier today, our kids kind of linger and they create havoc and do things, moving them to like metro state stops or certain areas where they're away from the schools. And so I testified on getting more funding for that, in particular the microbuses. Kipp does have some microbuses at the current time. And when I mean microbuses, I mean literally buses that we're paying for to move kids down to metro stops. Or in the case of Kipp College Prep, we're actually taking kids all the way from that campus, all the way to, some kids live in Southeast. We're putting them on the bus and we're taking them to Anacostia Station and to Minnesota Station in Ward 7. That way we don't have kids lingering. We don't have the problem where we lost a child to a violent fight at the NOMA station. We're really trying to be proactive. And then that legislation also called for the creation of a safe passage office within DC government. I look forward to hopefully them establishing that. What I told them is that they need to work with you guys, the ANCs, to make sure that we have a clear, coordinated kind of plan of how we deal with our students and how they move throughout the system. So that was another thing. So hopefully they'll pass that legislation, they'll create that office, and I'll have the opportunity to work with you guys even closer as we try to do very strategic plans around how we address kids moving back and forth to school and the violence that happens. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. There was one other thing, the DDOT thing we were looking at, the bike lane. Some of that we haven't heard back just yet of how we're going to resolve that issue. They did send us an email, but we haven't figured out how we're going to address the issue of the bike lane along with the bus stop that's right in front of Kipp DC College Prep, but we're working on it. So that's my presentation now.
Thank you. I really appreciate that update. It's such a serious topic. You know, I know people come to ANC meetings to discuss a variety of issues, but I think, you know, anytime a child is being stabbed directly in front of the school, that really has to be a top priority for the community to figure out ways that we can work together, you know, to support you all as educators, to make sure that our young people are safe as they go and try to seek an education. So I just really think that that is one of the absolutely most important issues that we're addressing as a community right now. And I really appreciate all of the work that you've done to keep us updated about what's going on there, and collaborating with us so that we can take appropriate steps to keep the young people safe. You know, there are a lot of things we deal with, but certainly the safety of children, you know, is for obvious reasons the most important. So thank you for that.
No problem at all, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm. So any questions or comments from any of the other commissioners before we move to public comments? And just on such a serious topic, you know, I would ask very respectfully if people could, you know, stick to the subject at hand for Mr. Patterson.
I love silence. That means I've answered questions pretty good, and you guys have my information. In the event that you have a question, hindsight, I'm here. I'm always going to be here to try to make sure that we're good neighbors. Kipp DC is good neighbors in both of our locations on Brentwood and next to Mount Olive. So thank you very much for tonight's opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Next up on our agenda, and I do just want to remind everyone, because I am seeing the comments, we do post the agenda online. I know some of the people who are commenting don't actually live in our community, so aren't familiar with our website, but each month we do post the agenda online. So the item that you're discussing is actually already on the agenda. So if you'll wait until that portion of the meeting to have a discussion, and just out of respect, when we're discussing a child being stabbed to death, even if it's not your community, respectfully, I think that that's something to pay close attention to. So I'm just going to move forward in the agenda. We have Sam Swiller from 1801 Maryland Avenue Northeast to present about an upcoming project that he's working on at that address. And I do see Sam Swiller, I see Jared Kahn, who will be sharing their screen tonight so we can give you the appropriate privileges.
Sure. Actually, our architects, there's Ron Schneck. I see Ron. He's under my name though, but that's Ron. Well, good evening and thank you, Commissioner Moore and ANC 5D for giving us the opportunity to present our project at 1801 and 1805 Maryland Avenue. It's 29 unit ground up condo development. We hope to earn your support and we're happy to answer any questions and address any concerns. But before I get into the presentation, I want to quickly introduce my team. So Sam Swiller of Holbrook Capital, Ron Schneck, and Sabrina Nagel of Square 134. They're the project architect responsible for designing the building. And Jeff Utz from Goulston Storrs is representing us in all land use matters. So we're here seeking minor relief by a special exception. We have submitted an application to the Board of Zoning and Adjustment seeking relief to address the split zone nature of lot 36, which is 1801 Maryland. It's predominantly zoned MU7 with a sliver that is zoned RA2. And we're seeking to shift the zone line boundary about 9 feet, in some parts 15, to enable us to optimize the design, provide a smoother transition from the more commercially intensive areas that are adjacent to us at the Aldi, as well as towards Starburst intersection, as well as deliver more affordable square footage. So that's a bit abstract without seeing the plan. So I'll turn it over to Ron and Sabrina to share the screen and walk you through the project design.
Good evening. My name is Ron Schneck and I'm with Square 134 Architects. I'm the principal, and we're excited to be presenting this project tonight. There's my project manager, her name is Sabrina Nagel. Does she raise her hand? She has the presentation and was going to present. Are you able to see her?
I don't see Sabrina Nagel. Okay, we do see her now. Bosco,
Okay.
If you could give Sabrina Nagel co-host privileges so that she can share her screen.
And she's going to present, but I'm going to be here if there's any questions. So thank you very much.
Got it. Okay, great. So we'll give us just a moment so that we can get her the appropriate permissions.
Thank you. I'll put my information in the chat since it's showing up as.
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
And you can also rename yourself as well, so that we know who we're talking to in the transcript.
Okay, you can all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
So whenever you all are ready.
Screen. Thank you. Okay, so this is our proposed design for 1801 and 1805 Maryland Avenue. So just a little bit about the context. So this is Maryland Avenue and our site is comprised of 2 lots, lot 36 and 37. So these are the 2 lots. We have 1 lot that is a split zone, that's lot 36. So we are going to BZA for a special exception to move the zoning boundary line up to the property line between the two lots, using the 35-foot extension rule. So this would be the proposed site plan with that 35-foot extension rule and moving that zoning boundary line up to the property line. We also have this building restriction line that exists on the site, so that limits where we can build and kind of acts as an additional property line. We are proposing 29 condominium units. We have some IZ calculations for each lot with a total number of 1,948, which we will designate 2 to 3 IZ units for that. This is the main facade at Maryland Avenue. We are treating each lot accordingly with their respective zoning constraints, as I mentioned, with those 2 separate lots with separate zones. So for example, the 1801 or MU7 zone is treated with the 65-foot height limit, whereas the 1805 or the RA2 side is treated with that 50-foot height limit. We have a continuous base that wraps the building, and this language translates to an element that highlights the entry. We also have a floating bay with, we maximized glazing so that we provide plenty of natural light to those units beyond. We're also providing a small balcony here. One of the goals of the project is to provide as much private outdoor space as possible. So we do have balconies throughout the project, and this also relates to the language on the 1805 side. So some of that language translates from one side to the other. We also have datums that carry across an architectural language that gets repeated on that side as well. So the 2 sides are tied together. This is the west facade. We have a unique condition of a 16-foot easement for the adjacent development, meaning any window above that line would be an at-risk window. So we mainly only have windows at the first floor at that property line. And due to this constraint, we did add a light well with balconies and again, maximizing glazing for those units that might otherwise not get natural light. At the rear, we do have another kind of floating bay at 1801. Additional balconies, as I mentioned. And you can see more of these balconies on the side of 1801. These are the 2 main views up and down Maryland Avenue. So you can begin to get a better view of those materials and the base that wraps around the building. We also have this, these playful reveals that provide this transition from the north facade to the west facade, and you get a bit of a better view of that light well there. This is the site plan. We do provide parking at the rear. One of these spots is a car share space, so that does count for 3 spaces. So we still comply with the regulation of the zoning, and we can go back if anyone has any questions to that zoning sheet. We are also providing a pretty substantial rooftop amenity space and a couple more outdoor spaces next to the penthouse of 1805. Additionally, proposing rooftop mechanical equipment on top of that penthouse. For the floor plans, every floor has the same unit count with 3 2-bedrooms and 2 1-bedrooms. At the cellar, we are providing as many areaways as possible to provide as much light as possible to those units. At the first floor, we have the same floor plan, except now we have a lobby leading to the circulation core. At the typical floor, you begin to see those balconies being introduced that you saw at the facades. At the 4th floor, the stairwell shifts in a bit to give more space to 1805 units. At the 5th floor, we see that penthouse from 1805 with that outdoor space on either side. And these 3 units for 1801 actually have private rooftop access via the penthouse of that side of the building. And then we also, again, have that rooftop mechanical equipment that you could see on top of the 1805 penthouse. So that is our design. I can open it up to any comments and questions.
Okay. Thank you so much. First off, let's have any comments or questions from commissioners before we move to comments and questions from the public. Just as a reference, I know we do have some neighbors joining by phone. If you're trying to use the raise hand feature by phone, if you'll dial *9 so that you can raise your hand before we move to the public portion. So let's hear any questions or comments from commissioners. Okay. And I'm not seeing any commissioners with questions. Okay, so we'll move to some of the public comments. Skip Keats says, for those less versed in zoning code, what are the differences between MU7 and the other zone? And then that other zone is RA2.
Yeah, so we do list out all of the differences on the zoning sheet. So some of those are, I think I mentioned the height limits of either side. So that's why one lot is able to be a little bit taller than the other lot. Still one cohesive design though. We have differences in FAR, differences in rear yard setbacks that we are allowed, and we did note all of those in the site plan or the elevations wherever they may apply. And then I guess the other main thing would just be the IZ calculations. So we did those separately and then added up the numbers for their respective zone to come up with the total square footage that we would have to allocate to IZ.
So also, just for folks following along, FAR is the floor area ratio. So if we could keep in mind where, you know, most of the folks on this call are neighbors who are not familiar with some of the acronyms.
Yes, my apologies.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any other questions in the Q&A. I know I did get a question from a neighbor. I do see one, we'll get to that one next, but I did get a question from a neighbor regarding parking and any considerations that are being made regarding parking at this location. So as you change the number of units, is there a subsequent increase for on-site parking as well?
Yeah, the parking calculation is done by unit number. So we have that here. So it's one space per 3 dwelling units in excess of 4. We were able to reduce that based on the public transportation proximity. So, I mean, we have the calculation here. So that's how we came to the 5 parking spaces that are provided. And as I said, we have a car share space and that does count for 3. If anyone has anything else to add, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so essentially we are not proposing or asking for any relief for the parking. The parking requirements are by right, which means they comply with the zoning code. And just sort of a quick summary of what we're asking for, because it is a little bit of an esoteric thing. So the difference between different zones in the city doesn't always line up the way it should with buildings. And we're just asking for, and it happens a lot, that the line actually occur at a property line between building and building. So that's sort of what we're asking for.
Sure, and I think we as the commission definitely understand that. And I appreciate the recap, but you know, you're going to get the questions you're going to get. So.
Sure, absolutely correct. Yeah. No. It's just yes, because it's a weird one.
Yeah, and we understand that here. So let's go through some of the other questions we have from the public. Desiree Williams, I reviewed this as a neighbor notification and have great concern about the obstruction of natural lighting for my home with the number of units. I will be participating in the hearing to provide a testimony. Also, does this set the tone for new, and then I think it cuts off your question here, for new zoning regulations for new petitioning zoning projects. So I guess the question is whether this sets a precedent in terms of zoning, which I think you did just partially answer. but if you
Yeah,
want-
I think it's more aligning the property line with the zone, so I'm not too sure it's precedent setting. In terms of, and this is always a concern, is sort of light. The only advantage here is because we're not changing the overall mass of what is allowed on 1805, and 1801 is sort of the larger mass of a building. So to answer the sort of light issue, where it's somewhat better in that the light should be able to get over 1801 into 1805, because of the fact that 1805 is sort of between the taller building, and I'm assuming the comment was about 1807, is it? Yeah.
There is no 1807.
Yeah, whatever I don't know what the neighbor notification would be, the one over to the north, right?
Yes, to the north.
Yeah, okay. Because I actually think, I mean, unless it's really early in the morning, the light should get high enough that it doesn't block the light. But again, understand the concern. But I think we're because of the fact that the larger story is on 1801, it should help that a lot.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to, Ron, is the grade change between 1801 and 1805. It's substantial that the additional floor is really only about 4 feet higher.
Right.
To explain that to other people, the additional floor in 1801 equals to only 4 feet higher than one less floor on 1805.
Right.
All right. And then I'm just gonna, since we've got so many questions from Mr. Keys, I'm just gonna wrap up with one of your questions as the last question. How many units of affordable housing?
Yeah, we have the inclusionary zoning units. We would allocate 2 to 3 units for this square footage that we came up with from our calculation. So that would be 2 to 3.
It's a function of what we end up in terms of these units are sort of preliminary. So the inclusionary zoning units, it's not number of units, it's square footage, and so we're illustrating the square footage, but we're not quite too sure what the configurations are all of the units are going to be. So it's either going to be 2 units or 3 units, but we'll comply with the square footage which we're listing here.
All right, thank you so much. So I'm not seeing any other questions here at this time. This won't be your last presentation. You all will be back next month. So any communications or updates that people need to send to you, if you can put your contact information in the chat box ahead of our next meeting so that people can contact you there. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Sure. Yes, thank you. You as well. So next up on our agenda, the consent calendar. We have a petition for speed humps from Commissioner Sauceda-Guzman for 11th Place Northeast. I don't have any reason to remove this item as a consent calendar item. Does anyone else object? Okay, so I move that we accept this item as part of the consent calendar. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. Voting actions. We have the 6th Street Northeast Development Project. And is anyone here from Goulston and Storrs? And this was the project that we reviewed last month for Gallaudet. So
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Christine Roddy with Goulston and Storrs.
Great. Do you need to share your screen?
We actually have a couple of other members from the development team that should be in the audience. And we have the whole team again, sorry.
No, so is there, who would be the screen sharer? What's their name?
Robbie Saklarides.
Okay, so if we could promote Mr. Saklarides first, Bosco, and give him the appropriate permissions to be able to share his screen.
Sam Swiller is another presenter.
Yes.
And then we have members from the development team.
Okay. And I see a number ending 676. Is that a part of your team? No. So I'm gonna pull this number just very quickly to see if that is a question on the previous item. Okay. And then whoever is at the number ending 676, you have just a moment here to speak while we arrange for the next presentation to begin. If you're speaking, we cannot hear you. Okay, so I don't hear anyone there, so we're just gonna have to go ahead and move forward. So go ahead, let's get a brief update before we vote.
Great, and so we have Lucas Posada with the architects who's in the audience. Dan Solomon is also in the audience. And is it Hillary, I believe, from Shank from Olson Kundig, who is in the audience as well, who will be available for questions. So I'll just dive in to start the presentation. Again, Christine Roddy, Goulston Storrs, we were here last month, and so we are excited to be here to provide another presentation to the community. We're very excited about this project moving forward. So Robbie, I think that your screen stopped sharing.
Okay, was it the correct screen?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
And so we are here to present. It's Zoning Commission case number 15-24B. We have hearings scheduled for November, a series of 3 hearings, and it's an application for a PUD in Union Market, and it's consisting of parcels owned by Gallaudet University. So as you can see on the slide here, we have 4 parcels, and the 2 articulated parcels we have a stage 2 application for. Those are on either side of 6th Street, and then just south of the 1 parcel is that's what we call parcel 1, and we have filed an application to modify the first stage approval for that, and we have also asking for approval to modify aspects of the first stage approval for both parcels 2 and 3, which Robbie had circled previously as well. So as I said, we are happy to be here. We did go through the first stage PUD process a few years ago. As you might know, the first stage PUDs largely focus on project massing, things such as height, density, site plans. And then the second stage PUD, which we are presenting this evening for parcels 2 and 3, those that review focuses on the building design. So we will walk through that design in more detail this evening. So we can't get through all of it tonight. Detailed application materials have been filed with the Zoning Commission, so we do encourage you to look through those materials. We think that they are beautiful buildings, so we would love to hear your input. And again, I'm happy to be here. So I will turn it over to Robbie, and she can, or I'm sorry, I think Sam is.
No, it's me.
Okay.
Just hi, I'm Robbie Saklarides. I'm the development manager for JBG Smith. I wish to do a brief context before I hand it off to Sam, overview of sort of the existing conditions and our benefits and amenity package. So currently, so you can sort of see on the somewhat now dated Google Maps screenshot, the 2 parcels that are going through our stage 2 PUD now are parcels 2 and parcels 3. They're both being used for parking currently. Parcel 2 is the above grade parking deck on the east side of 6th Street that's currently used by Gallaudet. And parcel 3 is the surface lot in front of Union Market. A brief overview of the community benefits and amenities. This was approved as part of our first stage PUD, along with the support of the ANC and the Office of Planning that continues to support our current application. It's a long list. I'll try to hit the highlights. I think First and foremost, in terms of neighborhood development, as I just said, the sites are currently utilized for parking. So all of these uses we are proposing to bring housing, affordable housing, makerspace, retail, deaf entrepreneur space are all net new to the neighborhood. No residents are being displaced. We're delivering approximately 95 residential affordable housing units as part of these two parcels. That's a little over 11%. The majority of which are going to be offered to the lowest level in the IZ program of affordability. That's 50% MFI or below. We've also committed and executed a first source agreement with the DOES, so that we are committing to prioritize hiring local DC residents throughout construction. We're funding 5 training sessions for market vendors and on effective communication with the deaf and hard of hearing, dedicating 10,000 square feet to makerspace, 5,000 square feet to deaf or hard of hearing entrepreneurs. We're doing a lot to improve the pedestrian experience and safety in and around our parcels. So it's called the 6th Street development. We're doing a lot on 6th Street to calm and quiet the traffic there and to prioritize the pedestrian. So we're implementing a raised crossing at the highest area of foot traffic in front of Union Market over to the university. We're implementing a protected bike path across that will connect to DDOT's paths along the east side of 6th. What else? A lot of traffic mitigation efforts in partnership with DDOT that includes traffic cameras, new signals where appropriate, and in terms of sustainability, our projects will all be LEED certified and will include solar panels. So that that's sort of a summary of what was approved in stage 1, and I'll pass it off to Sam with Gallaudet to walk us through their proposed modifications and open space.
Thank you, Robbie, and thank you everyone for having me here again. I'm speaking now as in my role as Director of Real Estate for Gallaudet University. I'm also have been an employee and a resident in the area for close to 12 years, so care very much about this community. And I do want to take a moment to explain what happened between the two PUDs applications. So we had a change in administration, and the administration felt that the space, which is at the very corner, Robbie, if you could circle the Gateway Plaza, was the original concept for creating an open space for the community. And then the rest of the project was going to be part of JBG's project. We have since taken back, if you will, from JBG Parcel 1 and have tried to come up with a new concept, which we think will be a wonderful amenity for the community. It's a cultural center that will have black box theater. It would have classroom space. It would have knowledge studio spaces where some of our leading research, such as in language developing and childhood language acquisition, could be centered. And we think that it would be a much better way to welcome the community onto campus. And so, Robbie, if you could go to the next slide, please. We a second thing we did was to make a better open space. We now have what's called Creativity Way. This is just a working name. We plan to improve on that name, but it is now going to be a much larger linear park that will include sheltered space, coverings, portals with covers. And if you could go to the next slide, here's some examples of what we hope the space would be activated. It would be a place where members in the community could come, perhaps meet a friend, have a lunch break in peace and solitude, and not necessarily be on the corner looking at a gas station. We think this is much better of a place where people can come, but it's also a place where we hope that people will be willing to come further onto campus and to learn about our history and our language. So that's really what we're trying to achieve in this space. And I'm happy to answer any questions at the end. But with that, I'll turn it back to Robbie.
Thanks, Sam. I'm going to quickly flip through the design slides. They're the same that we showed you last time, and I'm cognizant that we're 30 minutes over time, but stop me, ask questions. I'm happy to spend more time talking through these at the end. So first, taking a look at Parcel 2, this is the 3 buildings that are on the east side of 6th Street. They're lower rise and we're sort of at the south, sort of at Florida Avenue, looking northeast and in this view. The together are roughly 250 residential units over retail, with the retail here facing 6th Street and the university space that Sam was just mentioning facing the university. So the design here takes sort of the tone and color from the historic campus side and adds a layer of sort of modernness in terms of its materiality. So it's weathered steel that brings in an earthy tones from like the brick found on campus. A challenge and opportunity for these projects design-wise is to sort of knit together this edge condition and respond equally to its context, on one side being a historic campus, on the other side being an industrial warehouse with a history of its own. So sort of combine those 2 elements in that way. The 2 southern buildings are actually one building. They're connected by this above ground conditioned space, which really nicely frames the entrance back to Creativity Way and the campus beyond. It also serves as the primary entrance of our those 2 residential buildings. And here is looking south. So from the north looking south, you can see this raised crossing here in the foreground. This is Parcel 2B that takes on sort of its own identity and with more of the charcoal hues as seen on the rooftops of the historic homes on campus, and also implements brick with metal panels there. Here's a look at both of the current stage 2 parcels together. You can see this Parcel 2 buildings are roughly half the height of those at Parcel 3, and really all of these buildings across 6th Street in the market. There's really an attempt to sort of taper down and step down in scale as you approach the campus, and we took it a step further with setbacks above the podium here. So crossing 6th Street, taking a look at Parcel 3. Parcel 3 sort of takes on its own story of responding to those 2 contexts with brick and metal. So you'll see on the left here, this facade is facing the campus, facing east. It's primarily brick with slight metal accents. As the facade wraps around to face the market, there's increasingly more metal integrated into the expression. So when we get to the market-facing facade facing west, you see it's primarily metal with just the brick accents. And with a sort of iconic bridge here, connecting 2 masses over the extended Tapscott Street. And here's a look sort of at the pedestrian level of our Parcel 3 and Tapscott, which is being realigned on the campus side and extended through our parcel to create an east-west connection. It will primarily prioritize pedestrians. As you can see, it's curbless, there's bollards. It has, a specialty tapestry paving, and will include little conversation eddies on the side to promote and accommodate ASL conversations. Next, taking a look at our landscape. This is sort of the high bird's eye view. You can see we're improving streetscape all the way up to Penn Street here. That includes a protected bike lane. I'll zoom in on each of the aspects. This is 6th Street. So it'll be narrowed. It'll still have one-way traffic in each direction, maintain these parallel street parking spaces. We've carved out a little lay-by lane here for drop-off pickup of our parcels. And it's at a stage, this shaded portion is a tabletop crossing, which really will act like a big speed bump to slow traffic here, because this is where we expect the most amount of foot traffic from Union Market here, which is labeled our Tapscott Street retail, and then the university and Creativity Way along Tapscott to the south, or to the bottom of the screen here. And the white is the protected bike lane. Neil Place, so this is Union Market at the top of the page. That's owned by someone else. It's our adjacent property. But Neil Place, this property line sort of goes down the middle here. So we're working in concert with that adjacent property owner to maintain this as a public, open, pedestrian only space as a benefit to the community. And so that's part of our design and landscaping package as well. On parcel 2, back across the street, we have what here is called a green finger. It's what Office of Planning called it. Again, we'd love to change the name, and we probably will soon. But essentially, it's like sort of a really lush planted place of quiet, calm, respite from the market. It also serves as a portal back to Creativity Way in the campus here. Again, with these conversation eddies, so that ASL conversations can step off the path and continue on or off the circulation path. And that's it. So,
Robbie, could you walk through on, I think the future green site plan may have been the best one, but there's a question about the street grid and the Tapscott Street, and just walk through the changes that have been made in connection to this application.
Yes, so today Tapscott Street comes around here on the campus, sort of north of this building. And it logically would, if Neil Place had cars on it, it would connect to Neil Place and keep going through the market as a street grid. But since we've preserved Neil Place as pedestrian only, and we intend to keep it that way, we've committed, and this was part of a request from DDOT and Office of Planning in Stage 1, is to realign Tapscott and extend it, through to 5th Street to allow for an east-west connection vehicular between Morse and Penn. Otherwise, it's a very long block with no vehicular relief outlet. So that's been part of our project from the first stage.
All right, so thank you for that. Before we move on to any other questions, let's see if we have questions or comments from the commissioners before we move into public questions. And we have time for about 2 public questions.
I had one question, but Commissioner Rose, you can go first.
Do you foresee any of the students or any of the residents getting disturbed by the lounges or the activities that go on at Union Market?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think the owners of Union Market plan to develop on top of their place as well. So
the residents are complaining.
Yeah, they already are complaining?
Yes,
Is
they
that
are.
true?
Yes,
that's
they are.
Interesting. That's good to know. Okay.
It's interesting.
Yeah, we have so the developers around Union Market have created sort of a coalition to help coordinate, because there's so much going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we've tried to coordinate like street closures and construction access to keep it as nice of a place as you can when there's so much construction happening. And I'll bring that up at the next meeting and see what we can do about it. That's really good to know.
Yeah, maybe if they can have some kind of soundproof walls or something like that. Yeah.
That in combination with maybe the time and type of activity, we can monitor more closely, perhaps. Okay. That's a great question. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.
I had one question. My question is mainly based on parking. What issues do we foresee with this plan moving forward? And what are we doing with the parking that is being taken up? I believe you guys said it was Parcel 2 and Parcel 3 that had parking and being replaced. So what's the deal on parking for this project?
I know you and everybody wants to know, and us too, right? Parking is important to residents and retailers and the university. The university, I don't want to speak for Sam, but they have a contingency plan on campus to accommodate that parking. And Sam has been jumping through hoops over the last couple of years, analyzing their utilization of on-campus parking. And they have their own contingency plan or alternative plan figured out on campus. So that addresses the Parcel 2 depth. The Parcel 3 surface parking, we are replacing in kind with a full floor of below grade parking. I understand that it's not the same as surface parking, but the district will not let us do any surface parking anymore. But there will be a 2.5 year period where we're under construction. There's no surface parking, obviously, and ours hasn't delivered yet. So I've actually included in here this parking supply chart. So in anticipation of this sort of change in the market and wanting to maintain our support and viability of the small businesses there, the district granted tax increment financing to fund public parking in Union Market specifically. And there are 3 main places where you see those being delivered. And one large one already has been, the Batley. This is over on 4th Street. And if you ever go there on a full day, you'll see they've already posted signs pointing you there, because there's more than enough parking. People just haven't figured out where it is yet. So we're working on the wayfinding. So there's 200 spaces there. And then the next big chunk is going to come at the Union Market North building. So just like, how close we are to Union Market, that's where it is, but on the other side, that's 150 spaces. That'll be delivered in 23. And that's when we break ground. So we see that as a logical release valve. And those two combined is already more parking than what's there today. And then we'll deliver another 150 spaces thereafter. So we have a well thought out supply pipeline. I think that'll keep us covered over time.
Okay, great.
All right, so I'm going to move to just one of the public questions here because I think you did just address the parking question. Jose Morales asked, will there be an opportunity to open the Gallaudet campus to cross from Trinidad all the way to Union Market?
I'll let Sam answer that one. Yeah.
That's an excellent question. So since the pandemic happened, we have closed our West Virginia gate to vehicular and pedestrian traffic in normal times, and hopefully we'll return back to normal times. That is how we operate those gates. We did at one point of time study the idea of making a road that would go from West Virginia at the West Virginia gate and come out on Tapscott Street, but there were several complications. Largely has to do with, we serve a K-12 program, so we have kids from all over the country, and then actually half of them from within 15 miles of campus that are from the age of like kindergarten and up. And so the road was going to become a public route. We were going to try to work with the city. We're going to try it again to make it work, but it is a liability issues, a lot of issues across the board. But that said, when we get back to normal times, our campus is envisioned to be open during daytime hours. You will be able to come from Creativity Way onto campus, and you would be able to come from West Virginia onto campus. So hopefully, that would be just a natural way of walking across campus, but not necessarily driving onto campus and getting from Trinidad to Union Market. Because we very much recognize, we're a big ugly block in the middle of residents who live in Trinidad who may want to go hang out in Union Market, and we want to not be that, so we're working on it.
All right, thank you for that. So with that, Commissioner Rose, this is a voting action. Did you want to make a motion of, did you want to move to support this item from the ANC?
Yes, I want to move to support the 6th Street Development Project to move forward.
Okay, can we get a second?
Second.
Okay,
Can I
so I heard
interject?
Commissioner.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interject in things are going in my favor, but just to be clear that this would include the campus plan that Sam was speaking about, the modification to the Gallaudet campus plan, which is a separate number. So I just wanted to be sure that that was encompassed.
Right, yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah. No, good question though. So we have a second from Commissioner Black now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. Okay, and that's just a reminder that Commissioner Cobb has to abstain from development votes due to ethical reasons with his job. So it's not necessarily a reflection on any of the projects when he votes that way. Okay, so the ayes have it. Thank you all so much for your presentation.
I'm sorry, I was muted.
Thank you for your support.
I abstained in that vote as well.
Yes, I heard you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who was that abstained?
It's Commissioner Hoffman.
Oh, okay, so you're also abstaining from the vote? Okay, all right, so the ayes have it. All right, thank you. So we'll move forward to the next item on tonight's agenda, which will be a DDOT letter of reprimand regarding inadequate services in ANC 5D. This has been a topic for some time, but basically there are a wide variety of issues going on at DDOT that have impacted multiple areas of 5D. The commissioners have had discussions about the various issues going on in their area, including the West Virginia Avenue parking issue, which Commissioner Rose has already very clearly agreed, along with other commissioners, was not handled appropriately by DDOT. So I think the entire commission has been very clear, folks are gonna have to take a yes for a yes in some cases, that when DDOT makes a plan with the ANC, and that plan is formulated, approved, and is set to be implemented, and then they implement a plan completely different than what they discussed and was approved by the community after years of discussions, that's obviously inappropriate. Some of this discussion already happened at the beginning of the meeting, which some folks who joined late may have missed. But that letter that you see on our agenda has already been sent to the mayor's office. The mayor has been very proactive about speaking with the interim director at DDOT, Director Lott, which Ms. Woods previously mentioned during the mayoral update for this meeting. And he has responded already this morning that that was an inappropriate action. And so we'll be working together with him on next steps. So if that was unclear to anyone, concerned about this issue, who hasn't necessarily been paying the closest attention to 5D meetings or discussions, I hope that that's now sufficiently clear to folks, the status of what's actually going on. So we don't need to ad lib or imagine anything. That's the current status of things. In addition to that, we also had a variety of outstanding requests from DDOT that really concerns other areas of 5D, especially as it regards to accessibility for folks with disabilities and traffic safety assessments and speed bumps. We've had a variety of outstanding requests, and we're just at a point where we can't have DDOT doing whatever they want to do and not fulfilling the actual things that we've asked them to do. And so that letter that you see on our agenda, although it's already been forwarded, we are going to take the step of voting so that it is formally accepted by the commission. So I move that we accept the DDOT reprimand regarding inadequate service in our area. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I did hear a second from Commissioner Sauceda-Guzman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. In addition, a little bit more inside baseball in terms of how being an ANC commissioner works. We have had, unfortunately, very unfortunately, in my opinion, some recent changes to how the office of the ANC works. And so the current director, Gottlieb Simon, let me get it right, Gottlieb Simon, has been removed from that position. And that was done very abruptly during budget and annual report season without any notification or support really planned at that time for ANC commissioners. And so just the way that that was handled by the council really puts commissions at a disadvantage. And so our suggestion is that to remedy this, that they create a position, a senior advisor role, so that the transition is much smoother, because the office is already tremendously understaffed, and there are stakes associated with us not being able to complete reports and have them reviewed and supported in time. You know, it puts our commission at risk of potentially losing funding in some cases. And so we do need for that the continuity of service at the office of the ANC to continue, so that we can continue to do the work that we're doing. So we've written this letter to the council to suggest that they make this change so that we have the support staff that we need in order to continue to do our job successfully. So I move that we send the letter to council regarding the transition at OANC and how to improve that. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstention? I'm sorry, any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. All right, thank you. The ayes have it. And then the final voting action we have for tonight is that a slight increase in two of our budget areas around office insurance and equipment. So we had a break-in at our office. Very fortunately, not much was taken. And most of the items taken were actually just damaged items that were waiting to go out to the trash. But, you know, having something like that happen kind of really makes it clear where the weaknesses are in terms of, you know, security at the location. And so we would be unwise not to beef things up. So we are going to install a large safe and a large filing cabinet in our office. We've already made updates in conjunction with the actual building owner to the locks because the person was able to come in through the loading dock of the facility. And so we just want to make sure that we're doing our part to, you know, do as much as we can to protect all of the items that we currently have in place. So we made some small changes to the budget there. And you can see those items highlighted in orange. So I move to support updates to the FY 2022 budget to facilitate those changes. And then just one more item. I also removed the traveling projector expense because we already have a traveling projector. And so that was just a carryover from last year as an error. So that's been updated as well. But I moved to update our FY 2022 budget as seen here with an increase to $1,800 for miscellaneous office supplies, which would include that file cabinet, the sturdier file cabinet, and then $1,200 for office insurance. So can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. Okay. And then just give me just a moment here as I move some things around on my screen so I can make sure I can see the agenda. Got too many tabs open at the moment. Okay, and so that covers it for all of our voting actions tonight. We now have the community feedback and questions. So if there are any items that we didn't cover on tonight's agenda that you want to bring up in terms of either future items, please add those to the Q&A so we can get to those. and then we'll have commissioner reports and adjourn. Okay. Okay, so this is a great question from Jose Morales. Any idea when the meetings will go back to in-person? So that's a great question. And some of the discussion that we've been having behind the scenes is really how much better the attendance and viewing has been for the online meetings. And so I think what we'll do is that at some point, probably in the spring, be returning to in-person meetings. But I think what we'll be doing is actually hosting hybrid meetings because we have gotten a lot of feedback, and you can see in terms of attendance as well as YouTube views, et cetera, for people who are watching on social media as well, that a lot of the people who are seniors, people who have mobility challenges, people who have small children are finding it much more accessible to get to the meetings this way. And exactly, so transportation has really been an issue for a lot of folks. And so I think this is a great way for us to continue to engage with folks. So we've been having a lot of discussions about how to make it possible in the spring to, which I'm guessing, depending on, the mayor's orders, et cetera, because we don't control those. Once we return to in-person, how can we still maintain this same, higher level of engagement? And so that's a really great question, and we are going to work on that. Skip Keats, I have a quick question per resident-only parking. When will that type of parking take effect in the 1800 block of I Street Northeast? So I'll have to look into that specific request. First, before you get there are two types of resident-specific parking. There's residential permit parking. And then once you've had that for at least a year, if you're still facing challenges, primarily with out-of-state parking on your block, then you're eligible to apply for resident-only parking. But we did have parking concerns as one of the items that was listed on the DDOT reprimand letter. And that has been a previous item that was brought up in the spring for I Street in terms of residential permit parking, residential only parking. And that's been for all of the locations listed in the letter. So though everything that's listed there was already previously a request to DDOT to do those items, and they just didn't do them. And then some of those actually date back to 2019. Just for your awareness. Jose Morales, we need RPP parking on the 1600 block of 11th Place Northeast. Yes, please. So I don't know, Commissioner Sauceda-Guzman, do you have that block, 1600 block of
That's
11th
my block, and Mr. Morales has already been advised that we need to get a petition from the majority of the block to move forward with that so we can get the ANC to support.
Okay, great, thank you. So same thing, all of this from the letter at Skip Keats, and when might the traffic safety assessments occur on the same block and on 19th Street? And that is in the letter I'm reading. So that's exactly why that there is so much consternation in terms of dealings with DDOT. There's been a lot of back and forth, just in general, excuse me, on a variety of issues. And I think, from our conversations as commissioners, really at a moment when we have an interim director stepping into that role for a potential confirmation, really now is an excellent opportunity to bring up the fact that we've had these ongoing issues, and very slowly, bit by bit, have we only been able to chip away at some of the items. You do see speed bumps now on 20th Street and on 21st Street, and some of the traffic speed cameras on 17th Street and things like that. But I think our overall objection as a commission to how we're having to deal with DDOT is that we make these very kind of obvious suggestions about where they could be doing traffic safety assessments. And, you send them all the appropriate paperwork. Some goes missing, some they re-request. And so you end up having just kind of a comedy of errors with them, in every single minuscule dealing. And so that's got to stop. And so I think, now that they're having an interim director who's hoping to become permanent, now is really an opportunity to testify as to some of those issues we've been facing. And that hearing is October the 26th. And our commission has already registered to testify. This letter has already gone to the mayor and will already be part of the record for that hearing as well. So that's why we did so much to document that history of requests, because we do what we can do and they've got to do what they're supposed to do on their end. Yes.
I'm waiting for Miss Esther Hardesty to send me a letter. She said that a car was speeding on 24th and G Street, one of the areas that requested a speed bump. The car was speeding and it almost turned over. This was last Thursday. I informed her that she need to send me a letter what actually happened so I can forward it and everything, because she was real upset. I might have to follow up with that, but something has to be done.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that comment, and we'll see what comes from Ms. Hardesty. But she's also encouraged to testify, and you can testify on her behalf at the upcoming hearing. And so that's really in terms of the next question, that's really the next step. Is that this is politically it's an opportunity to raise a lot of the concerns that we've already been discussing, and for those of you who regularly attend the meetings, you can see that entire history of, all of the issues that we've consistently raised and that they're just not meeting the time requirements on those. Yes, and so that is Skip Keats. Is there any way regular residents can bring pressure upon DDOT? Yes, plan to testify at the October 26th confirmation hearing for their director. And if you, just for reference, are maybe new to the neighborhood or, are not as familiar with all of the history of issues that we brought up, you can find kind of that letter with a list of ongoing issues as an easy reference point for things to bring up in addition to your own concerns. Okay, so that's all I have for the comment and question period. We'll move on to commissioner updates. 5D01, any updates from you?
Yes, we're getting ready to start working on building a small area plan for Ivy City, and which will be done with the racial equity lens. We will make sure that they will be using the racial equity lens and what it means to all of us. We had a community cleanup on October 9th. It's on the ANC calendar, but if you all can participate on our monthly community cleanups, then we just appreciate it if you just go outside your home and just clean up. We have Saving Our Next Generation, who comes out and clean every day. I see them every day because I'm here in the community every day, walk in the community every day. But we have visitors and people that come into our community and dump trash, throw trash out their cars. So if we can just pick up whatever you see and just throw it in a trash can, that will save on the way that our neighborhood looks. Also, I put in a request to DDOT for a stop sign going up Gallaudet towards Fenwick, crossing over to Fenwick. For those that aren't aware or don't frequent the community, crossing that street is like a death trap. or even driving up that street and trying to make that left. You have the Profish trucks, and you have traffic coming from both ends. Someone can get hurt. I had put in a request a couple times, and I'm just putting it on record that something needs to be done with that intersection right there. I reached out to startyourrecovery.org. I'm noticing as I walk through my community, I'm noticing a lot of folks are doing drugs and out in the open. So I'm reaching out to different organizations to see if we can have a presence in our community to at least be there for if they need help or want help. We know Lewis Crow Park is a issue, and hopefully we can get some resources at the park while this transition with DPR and DCHA is going on. Also, I have spoke with the district manager at Target, and they're hiring. So if anyone needs a job or know anyone that needs a job, please go to the website and put in your resume. We also are partnering with them to try to work with getting residents in Ivy City some employment. So that's all for me right now. Thanks.
Okay, 5DO2.
Hi, everyone. Nothing new today, but just a good reminder, if you're new to the neighborhood or have been out of touch with ANC, feel free to reach directly to me via email at 5DO2@anc.dc.gov, or you can reach me directly on my cell 202-841-9383. Prior to me becoming a commissioner, the commissioner at the time was out of the office since the beginning of the pandemic. So if there's anything that hasn't been addressed and needs to be addressed, please refresh me with information, whether a small email or preferably a phone call or an in-person meeting. I prefer to work with someone and advocate for someone by meeting with them or speaking with them directly. So please reach out to me directly if you haven't already done so. Looking forward to hearing from more people as I'm continuing in this role. And just a quick plug for zoning, because I saw the chair put it in. The zoning meeting is next week. I have gotten some emails from constituents on this end of Trinidad with some current developments and projects that are being done in the neighborhood. Please attend the zoning meetings. One of the chairs for 5DO2, Patrice Lancaster, she's in the chat. But please join those public meetings just so you're informed on some stuff, especially if you see that something is being potentially built right next to your own home. Please join those meetings so you can be properly informed and provided resources that might help you navigating that experience that you might be having.
All right, thank you for that. 5DO3 is Commissioner Elmore, and she's not in attendance for tonight's meeting. So we'll move forward to 5DO4, Commissioner
Have
Black.
no updates.
Okay, and then I'm the commissioner for 5D05. The primary update that we have for our area is the concern regarding some of the development that's going on that's damaging the neighboring properties. And so we have had a meeting at 1835 H Street Northeast and done a review of the area, including 826 20th Street Northeast as well, with the council member, with the mayor's office, and with representatives from DCRA. And so the Consumer Protection Unit has gotten involved because they could very clearly, just like we've all seen in the community, see the damage that's occurring to the neighboring properties. I know that there will be a litigation around that issue. So just wanted to make people aware of that. In addition, we have had cameras installed in regards to the illegal dumping between H Street and H Place. Even though we continue to see issues in that location, it's very helpful that if you will make a 311 report so that they can actually review the cameras to see who dumped the items that you're reporting. So if you can do that as soon as possible and let them know approximately the time that you saw these items being dumped, they can now, since there's a camera there, review the camera to see if they can get evidence, to actually track that person down. So that's really the main way that you can help to make sure that we're able, to get the most benefit out of those cameras. And so I'll be in contact with folks about any additional updates on upcoming meetings regarding any of those issues. So 5D06.
I don't have any updates today.
Okay, 5D07.
Just one thing. Our first meeting of the Transportation Committee will be next month. I've gotten everyone's doodle polls about what times of the month would be best for them, and I just had to look at the results and let everyone know. If you're on the committee, you'll receive an email from me. If you're a member of the public who just wants to attend, I will post the meeting date and time publicly.
I'm sorry, I think it blacked you out there. We couldn't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The first meeting of our Transportation Committee will be next month. I still need to determine a date and time, but if you are on the committee, thank you for letting me know your availability. I will email you with the date and time for our first meeting. And if you are just an interested member of the public, I will also post the date and time online so that anyone can attend.
Okay, thank you for that. All right. And then just a reminder to everyone, I do see we've got questions going on in the chat. If you could please put questions in the Q&A box so that we can keep track of them. But just a question regarding RPP on the 1000 block of 18th Street. That request is not in the letter because it's already been approved by DDOT. And so it's just awaiting an actual installation date. And as it regards to the other blocks, as I've shared with folks, you can't request RPP for someone else's block. The people who live on that block have to request RPP for their own block. And so that's how that works, because there's a fee associated. So you can't go and request that somebody else pay their money for something that they may or may not want. Okay. All right. So thanks so much to everyone for all of your engagement, questions, and interactivity during tonight's meeting. Very much appreciated. And we look forward to seeing you next month. With that, I move to adjourn tonight's meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, fine then. Let's get out of here. Good night, everyone.
Y'all be safe. Y'all be safe.
Bye.
Bendiciones.